lot of this stuff, and I've tried to incorporate some of the things that Bruce is wanting in that for you guys. This presentation is one we give to our detentions deputies who need driving training as well. So initially, for those of you that know Rick Bothman, he's a talker, and he made this like a 4-hour presentation. The first time I gave it was about 3, and I can pare it down a little bit more. There's quite a few videos in there just to kind of keep it so you're not looking at me drone and listen to me drone on and on. But we'll go through that. Bear with me a little bit because I have it on my computer here because I got notes I need to talk about, but it's plugged in the back, so we're going to have to work on it that way. So we'll get through it, and by all means, if you need to get up, we're all adults, go to the bathroom, answer the phone, whatever, just go ahead and do it. So without further ado, we'll go ahead.
Everybody hear him okay, or does we need a mic, or?
Good?
We're good?
All right. Go ahead. So how many of you guys remember the accident on I-70 in Denver West a couple years ago? I mean, this could have been video from that same thing. I don't know all the details behind that. Could have been logging long hours, not paying attention, but he definitely rammed into and killed several people, right? So that's something we are, as emergency responders, we need to be cognizant. There's a lot of stuff in our cars as we're responding to something. We're thinking about what to do next, what to do, go on, what's going on, and we need to focus on that driving too. Because if you don't get there, you can't help, right? So driving is 90% mental. When you got to think about it, you got to keep doing those things, and then that 10% is when you carry out those actions. And some of this stuff is highlighted because it's testable stuff that we kind of give hints to the academy recruits so they know what's going on. So who can tell me some symptoms of fatigue driving? What was that?
Seems level.
Yeah. And sometimes it could be worse, right? So there's stats out there that talk about however many hours, and I have that in here somewhere, just how many hours of staying awake is worse than drinking. So some of the symptoms are you're having problems focusing, your head's nodding, especially if you guys are out there for a long time, work a graveyard shift, you guys are out searching for somebody for a long time. We're tired when we're going home, right? Not remember the last few minutes. I haven't worked graveyards in a long time, but I do remember driving home, stopping at that stoplight, and like, how many times did I cycle through this? We've all probably been there doing it, right? It's bad. We make poor judgment. Zoning out. You're just, all right, I'm done with that mission. I'm heading home. You just are trying to get there. Daydreaming. Constant yawning, drifting into the lane. Sometimes you want to get home to that comfy bed, but would it be better to pull over and have a little power nap? Whatever might get you home safely. So some of those things are caused by rotating shifts, secondary employment. All you guys are volunteers doing this, right? So you may be working all day and then get a call out and have to go do something after a long day. So it's stuff like that. It definitely changes. We become more irritable, discourteous to the other drivers. Do you guys, are your cars marked with anything Alpine Rescue? Some of them, all of them? And this is something I tell the deputies as well. You know, we drive a big billboard. Everybody's watching you. You have to be courteous or make a good representation of your agency. And if you're driving like an idiot, that's going to come back to your agency, and then you'll probably have to deal with Bruce, right? No? So overreact to somebody might cut you off. You're tired, might cut you off. You might get upset about that. And then our perception and reaction times are different depending on how tired we are, stuff like that. Go ahead to the next one.
He's not speeding. He's not drunk. He's just tired. One of the 3 big killers on New South Wales roads. Don't trust your tired self. How tired are you? Visit testyourtiredself.com.au.
All right, so next we're going to talk about some impatience. We talked about it a little bit. You don't need to be taking needless chances while you're out there driving. Because again, we want to get there, especially when we're trying to go help and save somebody, right? That's our point of being good drivers, is getting there. And then it's after everything's done, we want to make it back home. So definitely, and we'll talk about responding in emergency mode. But you just in general driving, you don't want to be tailgating people, any kind of reckless driving. Those cause accidents, and it gives you a 10 times more chance to crash. So we don't necessarily want to deal with those kinds of things. Some of the things we're talking about, like imagine if you're in a bad mood and you're just sitting, you're not even driving. What are your emotions like? Now take that and put it in a car. You got this 1,000-pound weapon and you're out there driving with a bad mood, stuff like that. It could cause issues. And then that kind of leads to the road rage stuff. Go to the next one. Got to lighten it up a little bit on this. Is it not going to play? Let's see what. Okay, so the guy, I'll just explain it to you. The guy in the silver car wants to get over, the SUV wants to get over, and the guy in the silver sedan won't let him over, kind of cutting him off. They're kind of going down the road. So eventually the guy in the SUV gets over, and then he sees a puddle on the side of the road. And he can see that the guy in the silver car is driving with his windows down. So he pulls over, splashes him with the window, and they go on. So that was a funny one. Sorry, guys. Next, we'll talk about overconfidence. A lot of people, who's a Colorado native? We can drive in the snow, right? We're better than those people from California. Sorry, anybody from California? No? Or you're just not brave enough to raise your hand? So, overconfidence. You know, I've been driving for years. I can drive in the snow. Sometimes we get that in that first snowstorm of the year, right? I can do this. And who goes off on the side of the road? So, those people are overrating their abilities and underrating the dangers of the road. So that's snow, the weather, whatever we're dealing with. What percentage of male drivers would you say think they are above average drivers?
80%.
80%, right? Yeah. Does somebody think that's too high? Too low? Right on? All right. So, but then 90% of the accidents are all caused by human error. Remember, we're going back to that 90% of mental, so it kind of pairs hand in hand with that. And that's some of the stuff you guys will get later on when we get you guys up to the track. Just learning how to handle your vehicle, observe and apply the rules of the road, and then just be conscious of your driving around you. It's defensive driving. Who rides a motorcycle around here? You really have to watch what you're doing nowadays, right? It's scary out there. And I'm sure we've all heard horror stories. You've probably been involved in a few. I've never ridden a motorcycle. I ride a pedal bike on the side of the road, so I got to pay attention to what's going on with the other drivers. But we should be driving that way as well in our day-to-day driving as well. There's a note in here. It says, people with poor talent often appear on nationally televised TV shows. Right? America's Got Talent or one of those. We wouldn't have those without those kinds of people, right? Will that one play?
It got no brains. Well, boom, it's the guy. Don't waste time. Don't ask why. That's the moral. When you find twisted spine, pushing crash you sometimes. Bells will ring, ting-a-ling-a-ling, and it's not to sing with a little fox that I then just wait till we hear me say he's gonna pay when he cracks his patella. When some young crazy fool tries to jump across the pool, that's a moron. When he flies from a tree, finds he's cracked up to be just a nut. When you're all on a beam, and you know you'll be screaming, excuse me, but you see that good thing on TV, that's a moron. Boom, hit you, guy, don't waste time, don't ask why, that's a moron. When you find twisted spine, teeth need all realigned, and that's
So I think we see people are overconfident in everything they try and do. So this one probably won't go well.
when that thing rings,
Alright, I think you guys get that point. So basically, overconfident drivers have a discrepancy in their perceived skill and their actual driving ability. They think they're better out there, they can handle things better. So they don't wear seat belts, they blame others for the issues that are going on in the road. They take more risks. I don't remember if it's in this presentation or not, it might be, but we have a video of a guy driving a Ferrari, I think, and it's in Colorado because at the end there's a state trooper in the back, a Colorado state trooper, and he was trying to impress the girl in his car. So he's driving too fast, it's a car club thing, and he ends up hitting a guardrail and damaging that car quite a bit. So they're more aggressive drivers, and then they miss important clues. If you're overconfident, you're too focused on what's directly in front of you and not paying attention to your whole surroundings. We talked about bad emotions a little bit before. So negative things. And I know this is kind of an overview of all this stuff, but think about it. Things that you may get in an argument with your spouse. Another person on the road cuts you off. You're sad, something like that. I mean, if you're at work and you get news that grandma's not going to make it and you got to go to the hospital, are you going to be in the right state of mind to be driving? You may be having some issues driving with that. And then running late. Who is always on time for everything? Wow. My wife would get along with you guys great. She gives me a hard time for being early for everything. Positive emotions, those have the same effects. I mean, you could get good news at work that you're getting a promotion, you're getting a raise, you get a call on your way home, your son or daughter just made the varsity soccer team, something along those lines. You could be calling into that radio show and win whatever money they're giving away. So that'll affect the way you're driving as well. Or who sings along in or sings a lot in their car as they're driving along. Carpool karaoke. Not paying attention to a lot of the stuff you're doing on that one, right? So if you think about it, it's a good thing, I guess. Positive emotions are harder to get rid of. So if you're maybe pissed off in driving, it kind of works its way out. But if you're happy about something, it's going to linger a lot longer. So just think about that when you're out there driving. Avoiding conflict. You cut somebody off. Sorry, didn't mean to. Wave to them. I'm sorry. Something along those lines. The worst part is to get out of your car and to have one of these kind of confrontations, right? Especially if you're responding to something, you got that logo on your car that's representing your agency, right? You don't want to be put in that position like we talked about before. So go a different direction if you have to, just to disconnect from anything somebody's going on or something that could potentially happen. And then you could even call the police and they could help defuse it. Here's another, I know this one worked earlier. Here's another road rage one. And then sometimes they get what they get, right? We kind of talked about this a little bit in handling your emotional distractions. Pull over, take those deep breaths. Anybody seen Meet the Fockers? Rub your earlobes. Do whatever it takes to calm you down. You guys know yourselves, but the best thing is just to disengage from something that's going to happen like that, okay? And again, just remember the consequences of your actions. You're representing this agency. Some of the psychological factors, as you're singing along in your car, driving along, who knows, is that something you do when you're responding to a call? You're heading up there, you got your radio cranked, listening to some Gloria Estefan. That's burnt in my head because that's what my parents used to do as a kid. But think about it, those sensory things, as you're driving along, that equilibrium, touch, sensation, maybe you hit a patch of ice, that seat of the pants thing, like, ooh, maybe I should slow down, something along those lines. Think about the timing, coordination to react. If the weather's bad, we're not driving as fast, right? We want to give, Bruce mentioned something about you guys pull trailers to some of these things.
Correct.
You want to have that reactionary gap there too, because now you're heavier. And if somebody cuts you off, something along those lines, you want to make sure you have enough room to react, right? Just depth perception, field of vision, night. How many things happen when it's nice and bright and sunny out and there's no clouds in the sky? You guys, do you respond to stuff at night in the dark when you just woke up, stuff like that? It's not all perfect, right? So think about those kinds of things. Now, obviously, I've never sat in your cars or known what's going on, but in a patrol car, they tell you to focus on driving. Yet there's a cell phone, you got a radio, a computer, lights and sirens to be working. Who knows? Maybe it's a spotlight you're trying to use. I'm sure you guys have a lot of the same distractions. You're not supposed to text and drive, but I'm sure that's how you guys get a lot of your information as you're responding to things, right? Try to minimize those distractions as much as you can. And fortunately, unfortunately, a lot of these smart cars are, like my car now, I plug in my phone, I got Apple CarPlay, so I get the map right away. I'm not having to look at my phone and try and pay attention, or if you have navigation in your car, something along those lines. So just think about minimizing some of those distractions as you're going along. How familiar are you guys with everywhere you respond to? Do you know every mountain, county road that you go on? So you probably need to focus on the road you're driving on as you're going along, right? Here's another distracted driver one. There's no audio to this one. Oh, says codec unavailable. Coming from farther away is a school bus, and there's a distracted driver coming head on, not paying attention, hits the school bus head on. Luckily there's no kids on the bus, but just to show, everybody's looking down, texting on their phones when they should be phones away, paying attention to what's going on. Multitasking. Technically, the human brain cannot perform two tasks at the same time. You have to switch back and forth. I like to say I can multitask a lot, but I probably don't do something very well during a driving, texting, phone calls. I know last week I was going from one part of the county to another, and I'm getting phone calls like crazy, emails are rolling in because I'm having to go respond to another thing. And I can tell you, I try to do my best at driving, but trying to multitask is tough, right? Stay in your car, stay focused, get there. Here's another video for you.
It is maddening for everyone else. It is an epidemic. Texting while walking.
So clearly we can't text and walk, so why would we drive
It
and
is
walk?
maddening.
So it just goes to show, people think they can do it, but they can't even do it when they're walking. They're not paying attention to their surroundings because they're sucked into their phones so much.
She sort of does like that way.
I'll pick you up at 3.
So he's doing the right thing, not picking up his phone while the kids are in the car. Now he's pulling over to call wife, right?
The kids left the gate open. You with Janie?
Just drop them all off the pool. Where's mom?
No idea. Honey, Mrs. Lopez sent me time this week. If I find them, I'll let you know. I'm gonna be so late. I gotta go. Love you.
Love you.
Was that Janie's mom?
Who are you?
I'm Justin. I love her. Do you mind dropping me off?
Sure, but you know Janie?
I'm a friend of hers at school.
I used to love soccer when I was your age.
Yeah, it's fun.
What position you want to play?
Striker.
Ladies love strikers. Which house is it?
A couple more.
You really shouldn't be out here by yourself.
Here's Muffin. Are you 40?
Yes, I mean, he's our dog.
Do you want to answer that?
No, I'm never with a kid in the car.
It's okay. I'm not here.
So he's doing the right stuff with the kids in the car, pulling over to talk to his wife on the phone, but then he thinks, you know what, I can do it, the kids aren't in the car. A lot of people think, you know, I got home, I drank a beer, I'm okay. I can do it again. Or I can text, I can email, I can do all these different things, because, you know, I got to where I was going and nothing happened. That's where we kind of lose sight of what's going on. So just something to think about. Every state has a different law about texting and driving, distracted driving. Washington State has one that it's a $130 fine for distracted driving. I don't know the details behind that, but Colorado's law is talking about as long as you're not doing it carelessly. And I think there's been a couple of rewrites through the texting and driving stuff, and it's kind of ambiguous. So best thing, just don't do it. So distracted driving, what's the best way to change it? Or the solution, I guess, is to change your behavior, right? And like it kind of showed in the video, if you're going to do it when your kids are, or not going to do it when the kids are in the car, don't do it at any time, because you can understand that it's not safe either way. All right, we'll move on a little bit. So, what kind of cars do we have here that you guys respond to your missions with? Trucks. Mostly trucks. Any cars? Minimal. It should be all the same. This is obviously an older patrol car we have, but as you're looking at it, you want to get in there in the proper seating position. If you're not driving a clutch, you'll look under the little emergency brake pedal, and there's that little pedal there. That's where your left foot goes. So you kind of sit there, get all nice and relaxed, arms extended out, sit upright but not rigid. You don't want to be leaning back doing the G ride thing. You want to have your seat set up pretty good, arms slightly bent, and then have your hips sit all the way back in the seat. That way you can be sat up straight and you can have good control of your car from there. With the mirrors, as you're looking at it, so obviously, how many of you guys can see through your rear view mirror with your trucks and stuff? Okay. So you got that, you set it up so you can see directly behind you. Then you set up your side view mirrors so they go just down the side of your car. People with that doors in the back, if you just barely have the edge of your door handle there, if you can tell, that's pretty much where your pivot point is. At least that's the way we teach it in the patrol cars. With trucks, it's a little bit further back, but then you can see that. So you don't have to be moving your head too much. So you look in the mirror here, and as soon as you look in your driver's side mirror, you're catching right where your driver or your rear mirror let off, and same on the other side. The next one shows kind of a similar show of it too. Obviously wrong, because you can see on that one, the mirrors are tilted in too far, and you can't see the car in the blind spot. If you have it pulled out a little bit more, you don't need to see the whole side of your car, you just need to see the very edge. So that one on the right is the correct way to do it. Seatbelts and airbags. Must you wear your seatbelt? Yes, definitely. Those seatbelts and airbags go hand in hand. It's not one or the other, right? Obviously, the seatbelts lessen your chance of ejection from the vehicle, and then it keeps you behind the vehicle and in control of everything. Because if you aren't wearing your seatbelt and you get hit, you bounce out of that cockpit, you're not able to control the vehicle as well, correct? So, and then again, going back to setting that example for your agency, when you're responding to something like that, you don't want the public to see that you're not wearing a seatbelt and you're driving with lights and sirens on. So it's just a good thing for the public to see. Obviously, it's a law. Our department policy, I'm not sure what your policies are. I assume it says you have to wear the seatbelt as well. There are exceptions with the emergency vehicle stuff, but it's just a good idea to be wearing your seatbelts. With that defensive driving, just remember, negative attitude doesn't get you anywhere. It leads to that overconfidence, lack of confidence, either way, I guess. Aggression, impatience, preoccupation, peer pressure, and extreme conditions. It evokes that emotional response. So we already talked about those previously. Just positive traits. Having respect and awareness for other people, it's a good thing to have those, because then you get where you're going safely and you don't have any complaints, anything along those lines. So like we talked about, airbags are not a replacement because that airbag is just meant to slow you down even more once the seatbelts stop you. So we have all these other different protection devices in the car. So obviously the head restraints are to help with that whiplash. The door locks, double locks to kind of help keep the doors closed if you have an accident. Those collapsible steering columns, padded dashboards. Everything in cars nowadays is meant for comfort and safety, right? I tell a story about my wife wanted to test out the front end crash collision on her car that we just paid off. So she's driving down Santa Fe, stop and go traffic. Traffic goes, she goes, and then it stops all of a sudden. She just barely hit the car in front of her. But because of the way the crumple zones are set up in the cars nowadays, the car's totaled. So you just got to think about those kind of things. So this next one's talking about vehicle dynamics. I'm sure we've all been driving long enough to know when you brake, the front of the car dips down, and so that's what this is explaining. So you got more weight on the front of the car. When you accelerate, more weight goes to the rear, so that's where your traction's at. Then the next one is just talking about steering for side to side. And you can tell when you're going from one direction to the other, there's less tire friction on that front right wheel, right? Or tire contact patch. So you don't have as much there if there's weather or snow, ice, anything on the road. And that's where we come to overcorrecting. So that's what happens. Overcorrecting, you say you're going to miss something in the roadway, or there's a patch of ice, something along those lines. A rollover accident is one of the more deadly consequences of that oversteering, because you're trying to steer and then you go back and your back end comes around. So the best thing in that recovery is to stay calm, let your foot off the gas to decelerate, don't brake because that causes some other issues, and then ease back onto the roadway.
Gravel shoulder of a highway can lead to a serious collision. The uneven traction could cause you to lose control of your vehicle and send you into the ditch.
In this situation, don't make any quick movements. Making a quick change or abruptly moving back onto the pavement could send your vehicle into the path of oncoming traffic.
A head-on collision could occur because of overcorrecting. You should grip the steering wheel firmly and slowly ease off the gas, but do not brake.
When you feel you have control of the vehicle, check your mirrors, signal, and ease back onto the highway when safe.
If the drop-off to the shoulder is steeper than usual, slow down even more and steer back onto the pavement at an even sharper angle.
Clear?
Gravel shoulder of a highway.
Oh, yep. The next one is just it's not going to work either. It's just showing that overcorrecting when they go off the side. They overcorrect and then the car rolls down the hill or down the side of the highway. So we talked about this a little bit before with you guys pulling trailers, bigger trucks, stuff like that. So it doesn't take as much to stop when you're on a bicycle, more in a car and a lot in an 18-wheeler. So you got to think about that distance as you guys are going to where you're going, and that's stopping stuff. The larger the mass, obviously the bigger stopping distance, the higher center of gravity, and then acceleration is going to be an issue as well. I took this picture last weekend. I'm just kidding. No. We know there's not lumber around like that anymore. So just take this into account with basic vehicle dynamics. If you have a heavier load in your car, it's going to sit different, it's going to drive a lot different. That tire contact patch is that little, obviously, point of your tire that you want touching the road. So if, as in this example, it's heavier on the back end, there's less contact patch in the front, so the steering is going to be a little bit rockier, right? That weight transfer, that probably is going to slide off as soon as they brake, but think about that as well. And then obviously road conditions changes all that stuff as well. So in this, we talk about rolling friction, which is the good kind of friction, and bad friction, which is sliding friction, which is if you're sliding from side to side, or if you have a car that doesn't have ABS and your tires start sliding, right? So that sliding friction is bad. So this is an example of oversteer. So you can see they're going into the apex of that circle, or I'm sorry, of that corner, and they're going way too fast. So then they turn, and the back end starts sliding out. Now what you want to do is, obviously, you want to let off the gas, and no braking, let off the gas and steer into the turn, right? Because if you don't, the back end's going to come around and you're going to spin off. So with front wheel drive vehicles, I'm not sure if any of your trucks are like that, I wouldn't assume so, but front wheel drive vehicles, less likely to oversteer because you've got that car pulling you in the front. And then understeer. Often everybody's driven in the snow in Colorado, right? Think of that as plowing. You turn the wheel, the car just keeps going straight. So that's the best example I can give of understeer. So basically that happens when there's low traction, ice, oil. It's a weird example that's in there, but apparently there's oil on the road when this presentation was made. And this is the next one's a good example of it. I think of like Berthoud Pass with those big switchbacks going back and forth. So you can see the red car is impatient, wants to get around the silver car, comes down, the back end breaks loose, and it slides out. Just another good example of oversteer. So very, very rarely is the highway design the reason for accidents. A lot of it, like we talked about, is human error. So these are some of the things that have been put into place to kind of help out help accidents not occur. Roundabouts, we're seeing more and more of those around, right? Cables dividing the highways everywhere. The narrowing of streets, banked corners, I don't know what an example of that would be. It's not like it's a NASCAR track and we're going around like that, but those are things they've done to kind of help keep drivers safer. So there's two different kinds of defensive driving systems out there. The first one is the Smith system of driving. So basically, if you think about it, you just aim high. You want to be looking down the roadway, paying attention to everything that's going on in front of you, okay? Just get the big picture. That's the main thing. Don't focus just what's right in front of your hood or down your hood. You want to be taking that big picture in. Looking for changes all around you. You constantly want to be scanning, especially driving at night, going up into the mountains and wildlife. I still remember as a kid when my dad was teaching me how to drive, he said, look for those little eyes on the side of the road. So you got to constantly be looking around. And then check your rearview mirror occasionally. So you know if something happens in front of you, you can react and not cause any issues behind you. And so you can see on there, it says it's an estimate, but in an urban setting, look a mile down the road. In a city, maybe 2 blocks. So this is just a little bit more of that one. So aim high, get the big picture, keep your eyes moving, always leave yourself an out. If you guys, I still remember one of my field trainers when I was a new patrol cop. We were in traffic, just driving down Kipling, and I would pull up and be like, what happens if we get a call? Is there a way to get out of this situation? You always want to leave yourself a gap. And to this day, when I'm stopping at stoplights, whether it's in my personal car or my work car, I always make sure there's plenty of gap and I can see the car's tires in front of me. So I can get my way out. So something to think about as you're responding to things too, just always be looking around. And then make sure you're seen. That's the big part, and we'll talk about that a little bit later when you're running with lights and sirens on. Being seen is the big part. This is just another example of what it means by aim high and steering. Just more of the, I don't know if that will actually play. Yeah. I think it's just a picture at this point. So, and then this is just an example of driving in the city. We talked about motorcycle stuff. Make eye contact with people as you're driving down the roads to make sure they know you're coming through and they don't jump out in front of you. The next one's just an example of going towards Wyoming on I-25. You can see forever, right? So you can aim high and look and see what's going on, because if traffic comes slowing down in front of you, you're looking in your rearview mirror so you can tell, all right, traffic's slowing down, I should probably brake now so people don't get me. This is a second kind of defensive driving. It's called SIPID. It's a little acronym, but basically you search the area, identify hazards, predict what those hazards will do, decide what you're gonna do, and then execute the maneuver. So if you're driving down the road, you see an elk in the road, you're gonna decide, all right, this thing probably is gonna jump out in front of me. I gotta maybe slow down. If it's gonna stop, I'm gonna go around it, and then you're gonna execute that maneuver. So just think along those lines. So if you look at this, all these people are driving at 15 plus miles per hour. They've got a little bit of space, but they got to pay attention. That third car back in the middle row, he might be a little close. He's not paying attention. So that's a station wagon stops. The minivan behind him is going to hit him, right? Because he's not paying attention.
Extra. Failure to look far enough ahead. Drivers who just look at the car ahead or look away from the road have slower response times when confronted with something unexpected. Look further ahead to detect anything that might cause you to change your speed or to steer around. Failure to maintain a space cushion around your vehicle. More space means more room to avoid any conflict with another roadway user or collide with another object. If another driver moves into your cushion, lift off the accelerator for a moment to regain open space. Failure to adjust to conditions. At least 3 factors affect your choice of speed: traffic, visibility, and traction on the road. On wet roads, tire traction drops by about 30%. Therefore, drivers should reduce their speed by a similar amount just to maintain normal traction or steer around any unexpected object on the road ahead. Failure to remain focused on driving. Dividing attention or becoming distracted can be a fatal mistake. An estimated 25% of all vehicle crashes involve inattentive driving. It's simple. Avoid all distractions.
Don't get out your map.
No eating, and absolutely no texting. Failure to anticipate maneuvers other drivers might make. Always assume other drivers will take the action that puts you at the most risk. Predict what they might do, then come up with potential responses, and be prepared to take those actions. Get you?
Apparently that's the end.
Extra. Failure to look far enough ahead. Drivers who just look at the car ahead or look away from the road have
You
slower
can go on to the
response
next
times when confronted with something unexpected. Look further ahead to detect anything that might cause you to change your speed.
So things to consider when you're driving. Smooth and considerate. Again, we're out there, logo on the side of our trucks, we're representing the agency, right? Smooth at slower speeds will be a lot better than faster. Merging onto the highway. I went to a comedy club not too long ago where the comedian was talking about, I don't understand it. He's from California. He's like, you guys here in Colorado, when you're getting on the interstate, you got both green lights, and it's red, green, race onto the highway. He's like, in California, it's you go, it's alternating. He's like, I don't understand how you guys do it here in Colorado. So thinking about that, it's like a zipper. So when you're merging on the highway, be considerate as you're getting on, so people see you up there. don't pass anybody on the right, especially when you're operating in an emergency vehicle mode, because people are told, move to the right. So you guys need to stay on the left side and just wait for them. Don't get right up on their bumper, because chances are they're jamming out to whatever they're listening to in their car, and then you're going to scare them, and they're going to step on their brakes, and bam, and then you're not going to be able to get to where you want to go, right? So definitely make sure you stay on that left side. Traveling in the center lane, it gives you an out. So we have several highways around here that have